you are in my opinion, the worst economic environment in 100 years. Ultimately, it's called financial confidence, not financial freedom. There is no such thing as financial freedom. I mean, you have to hit maybe 25 million now in assets that are relatively semi-liquid as well. I mean, I think it's very uncertain of the future, the value of the dollar, the value of certain assets with the oncoming of Bitcoin and other crypto-related products. Money will shift. So don't seek financial freedom. You're not going to retire, my friends. Retirement's dead. The whole concept is a dead idea. You don't want to do that. You want to be able to earn forever and eventually as passive as possible. Look, you earn now, eventually you're buying businesses, buying dividend stocks, buying fixed income. You use money to make money. You're not in that phase typically, right? You're starting your first venture into real money, right? You want to get out of that 15th and 30th paycheck mentality, right? You want to be paid as often as possible. You want people to buy from you, your services, your products, your time, your intelligence. Every minute should be valued, not the way your job values you. They're trying to replace you. They're trying to replace you with someone foreign. They're trying to replace you with robotics and AI. You can't trust them anymore, and you should honestly understand what it means to be a corporation today and how little they care about you. They don't. And they certainly don't care about you much these days as a consumer either. I mean, we've tolerated some pretty poor behavior from corporations in the last, let's call it 3 decades, really into the boom of sort of society and globalism. And I think globalism is sort of the deep-seated problem here. That's too much space to try and have rules and logistics and things. Definitely need to move to more of local, community-based moderation, regulation, government if that is needed. And as you can see in the world, that's the opposite of what we're trending towards. I think people are sleeping a lot these days. I think they don't know the biggest issues of their time, and I think that's primarily because the economy is so weak and people need money right now. They want to earn more money. They want to make more money. I get it. We all do. Is that good or bad? I don't know. Should we be trending in a world where every person has to think about making more money? Everything is can get awry. It can go upside down when you think like that, right? I think we're in a tricky time. I think that you should buckle up. I think you should get 2 jobs. I think you should have a job and a side hustle. I think you should be working twice as hard. I think you should be getting up 2 hours earlier. I think you should be going to bed as early as possible or working at night. I think you should give up all your pleasures for 6 months at least and see what happens so that you can get some momentum. Stop trying to do half and half. Just go all in on something. And the challenge is you don't know what to go all in. That is the challenge. You don't believe in yourself. You refuse to go all in. There is a fear of going all in. There's a fear of your family, your friends, your failures. There is a challenge. There is friction. It is difficult to make the jump. That's fine. But you can't make it your excuse. Just because things are difficult doesn't mean you don't have to do them. You absolutely have to do them. And you have to cherish them as those are the soul-forging moments of your life. I was speaking with some family members recently, and it was very clear to me that the family members who had gone through a few more challenges were becoming more spiritual than those who have been quite comfortable for the last few years. Families in the last few decades have faced all sorts of challenges, from economics, cancers, drugs, addictions, mental illness. There's many things families have struggled with. And of course, the disconnection of the last few years, the isolation, the differences in opinions, the polarized concepts being fed to society. So families are taxed. But I really believe that spirituality, or let's just call it personal growth, or let's call it reaching sort of your beyond the ego, beyond the body, I think there's something to challenge and being challenged. So if you're sitting there right now and you feel incredibly challenged, you feel scared about the future, you are uncertain, you are actually exactly where you need to be, because what's missing is your ability to navigate that particular situation. And so somebody's giving you a chance. Somebody's saying, look, I suspect you can't do this. And so I'm just going to put it in front of your face until you finally do it. And that's all what happens in life a lot. People refuse to do this one thing in their life, whatever that may be. And they are just continually coming back to that. And it's sort of just overcoming that. And I think we all have those things at all times. I don't think they really go away. And it's those who decide to take those challenges on, to say, you know what, I probably could be better. I probably need to look at this a little bit. I need to think about what I'm doing. You are in my opinion, the worst economic environment in 100 years. I really believe that this is going to be something very strange. I think it's going to be hard to understand. I think it's going to be very misleading at times. I think that you don't know what to invest in anymore. I think housing is confusing. What is the future of housing? Like the world's top investment class. You know, I sense from my readings on Twitter, on just articles, listening to people, it's quite confusing. If we're entering a recession, I think what's happening is the interest rates are causing us to have less liquidity and money in the system. People aren't spending. Okay, that's the first part. But I'm also seeing corporations doing okay. But how is that possible? How come there's no money, but corporations are doing okay? I feel corporations are doing two things. One, they are raising prices on purpose to create some sort of, and this is primarily in the West. So the West is in a predicament that is not dealt with in many other countries. And unfortunately, the West's wealth and growth has come at the expense of those other countries. And we see that those countries are causing people to want to come to the West or change because their country has been sacrificed to some degree for the West. The jobs happening in China, in India, in Vietnam, in Thailand, that you cannot compare the jobs there and the jobs in the West. It's an interesting dynamic we're currently faced with, that, you know, this sort of Western groups of countries have kind of really shifted the world's economic status, but then now they're the ones really driving the economy in a negative way by raising interest rates, because they were the ones who printed the most money in the past 5 years, 10 years, probably the last 5 years. And that's the thing. It feels like maybe this is the end, because it's unprecedented what we're facing, the amount of money printing in the world reserve currency, right? So since 1971, we moved off the gold standard in the United States, and the United States was no longer backed by hard money. And that led to the next 40 years of inflation. Go back. A dollar in 1950 ain't much different than a dollar in 1970. A dollar in 2015 is incredibly different than a dollar in 2023. And what is going on there? And so you have to look to history. You have to look to hyperinflation. You have to look to Germany. You have to look to what's going on now in other countries like Argentina. Definitely some of these South American countries facing currency crisis, as well as Eastern Europe and parts of Europe. And Asia, I'm not as tapped in on currency. I actually think the Japanese dollar has been rising. There is going to be more sort of mispricing and inefficiency around shipping, you know, drop shipping, that sort of stuff. That's all in flux still. I think a lot has returned to the norm, but it's tricky to be me. You may not think so, but I launched the company basically December 2019, right? That was the coming out of Rich+Niche, really it was, if you look back at the video history. And just around the corner, you know, we were faced with what happened in 2020. And, you know, I don't like to talk about it because I don't agree with a lot of it. And I don't like to perpetuate that language into the future. Now, I know I'm fighting kind of an uphill battle there, but I see a lot of people referencing the last 3 years as if it's so normal, it's so commonplace. And I'd prefer to see less of that. And I don't think we will, but I certainly find that the words we choose, the words we choose are far more important than we understand, right? Did you know that if you just move the S from the end of words to the beginning, what do you get? Sword. Words are a sword. Words are a weapon. And many words have been weaponized against you as a human being. to control you, ultimately. I don't want to talk much more about it. I'm not in that place in my life right now. But the point is, like, I had to start this business in the face of a lot of difficulty and challenge. And I've had to moderate prices because I think that since I launched, the economy has gotten increasingly and increasingly worse. So just understand that, like, building a business versus a high interest environment, completely different. And so you just watched a decade of VCs dumping money into companies that have absolutely no value in this world. Zero. They've accomplished zero. And that's fine. That's not against the rules. But I think what we have to understand is that when money is so cheap, the VC market can make 10 bets, 100K in 10 bets, that's $1 million. They borrow $1 million, 1%, 2%, it's like free basically. Just 1 out of 10 startups has to break $1 million, and it's gonna happen, right? So that model where basically all these businesses had millions of dollars for no reason, just because they claimed they were making, fucking Uber for Chihuahuas or something, like, it's not right. And it's unfair to those who bring real value to people around the world. And it's all gonna change, right? Because in a 5% environment, you can't borrow effectively anymore. The interest creeps up on you, right? So you're not gonna see a lot of VC money. You're not gonna see a lot of startups. It's gonna be harder than ever. And that's why the bootstrapping model will return more than ever. And it's what I've done. It's what, Sahil at Gumroad has done. It's what some of the best real products that bring real value have done, because you don't actually need VC when you bring real value. You just need patience. And I think we're in that. But to say that this hasn't been incredibly difficult, it's wrong. It's to show up in this environment and work in this environment is difficult. And that's what I'm saying. Wake up, get 2 jobs, do not put yourself at economic risk. You have to understand that this is the tough time and that one day we'll be out of this. By 2033, 10 years from now, we could be in a completely different golden era. AI could have played out. Crypto could have played out. Things could be better, and things can be worse. For sure, things can be worse, but you have to have some optimism. But to say that this moment in time isn't difficult for people is incorrect. It's difficult for everyone. We are one black swan event away, and it can happen just like that. What do, right? That's what I'm saying. Buckle up. Stop playing games. Stop thinking this is gonna be so simple. It's not that the business model is complex. It's that the world is complex. People are complex. People are changing. Businesses are changing. Digital marketing is a growing industry. Look up any report, but it's going to change. What does that mean? You gotta get your hands dirty. You have to be part of the change. You have to be driving the change. If you enjoyed that clip, you'll love the full live stream. I've linked it here for you. And if you're looking for something for beginners, check this video out. It's an A to Z. See you guys next time.